First, I want to address the constituents and the family and the friends that I have that have a deep disagreement with me over my position here today. And I just want to let you know that I've considered for months, hundreds of hours. I've sliced every issue as it relates to this vote up and down and side to side. And I truly couldn't come back to this chamber as an honest legislator and cast a no vote on this bill. I couldn't wake up in the morning, look myself in the mirror and say that I am honestly doing the work that I need to do, that I'm honestly doing what in my heart and what in my mind is the right thing to do. And we have the marriage before us today as the issue, and I just want to acknowledge my wife, Jessica. I love you. You're the love of my life, and I'm so privileged to be with you. And to my kids, Cash and Paisley, they're 2 and 1, so they don't quite understand exactly what's going on here today. And regardless of whether you one day agree with my position on this issue, I just want to say that in all things related to your faith, to your freedom, to your family, be bold and be courageous, and you'll never regret a day in your life. I come here today to talk really about what I believe is an honest philosophical disagreement between the two sides. And I would just like to rebuke, and I know this language hasn't been used on the floor, anyone who suggests that someone for having that honest philosophical disagreement is a bigot or is a hateful individual. That is not only offensive, it's absurd. And many of the people whom I care for, who I love, and who I would die for are not those things. Today, my starting point, or at least a few months ago when I went down this road, I tried to start at the ground floor level when considering this issue. And as with many other issues, I start with the fact that we as citizens of this country and of this state live, and we are blessed to live, with the presumption of liberty. In other words, we are free to act as we wish, so long as it does not infringe upon the rights of others, and that where we are restricted from doing so, the burden of proof is on government to prove why we should not be free. So in this case, I think that's an important starting point. The burden of proof is not on the individual who seeks to be treated equally under the law. The burden of proof is on us in this body to prove why they should not be treated equally under the law. And I think foundationally, and as it relates to the Constitution, the center of this argument is truly the 14th Amendment and the equal protection under the law that is guaranteed in that. It's an argument that we haven't really debated here on the floor, and quite frankly, I was hoping that we would. It's an argument that I believe as policymakers, if we are suggesting that people ought not be treated equally under the law, we have an obligation to say why not. The thing being discussed here is not a right to civil privileges, but really a right to that 14th Amendment, to that equal protection under the law. You know, one of the rebuttals that is used in this issue is that the 14th Amendment cannot be considered because the orientation in this case is not an immutable fact, or that it's a choice. And I won't get into that debate here today. I don't believe that it necessarily is a choice. But as I was looking back at the history of our nation and the founding of our country and the founders of our country, you'll find that one of the oldest protected classes in our nation is the freedom of religion. Freedom of people to practice their religion as they saw fit. In fact, it predates the Articles of Confederation. It went back and forth in the Maryland Compact and other local colonial legal decisions and parliamentary decisions. And one of the great advocates of freedom of religion was Thomas Jefferson and to a lesser extent James Madison. And what's important about that is that as a huge fan of Thomas Jefferson, my favorite founder, even Thomas Jefferson recognized that even with something that is clearly a choice, which is the practicing of your religion, there's nobody that would say that that is an immutable fact. Jefferson understood that religion was a critical part of the human fabric, that spirituality and one's guidance as it relates to their religion allows them to live freely. It often guides their relationships and their very path in life. And so, as it relates to sexual orientation and who one chooses to love, I would suggest to you that that is also deeply woven into their life. In the spirit of Jefferson's advocation for freedom of religion, that spending your life with the one that you love and being treated equally under the law is just as integral to the fabric of who we are. And nothing reminded me more clearly of this a month and a half ago in the Capitol. I ran into a couple, and they were here with their daughter. And it was a fairly run-of-the-mill conversation. They were here, they were advocating for marriage equality. And their daughter was here, and she didn't say anything, but she handed me a flower. And I don't know what it was about that situation, but I got emotional about it. Maybe it's because I have a little girl, my little girl Paisley, and I'm a softie for my sweetheart. And a rush of thoughts came into my head. What is she thinking right now? She's here in the halls of government advocating for the only two people she's ever known. And she's here advocating in 2013 for her parents to be treated just like her friends down the road or her cousins. How would I explain it to her? How would I explain the current situation to her? And then what would she grow up thinking about our government, about justice in general? And as a libertarian, quite honestly, I was somewhat offended at the very notion that I was the one that was standing between their family and the happiness and equality and the equal treatment under the law that they deserve. Who am I as a legislator to stand here and through my own subjective interpretation of morality decide that they ought not be? And so, members, today, I vote yes for that family. I vote yes for others like them. I vote yes on the First and the 14th Amendment. I stand here, quite honestly, more uncertain of my future in this place than I have ever been. And when I walk out of the chamber today, I'm absolutely certain that I'm standing on the side of individual liberty.